Newton was wrong on some things, and so is Einstein, so science is no better than faith. Welcome to Friday Fallacy. This week we're looking at the Continuum Fallacy. The Continuum Fallacy is when a lack of clear boundary between two categories is used to argue that there is no distinction. That is, rather than seeing the categories as points on a continuum, it is argued that any difference must have a sharp boundary. This is not a sound way of arguing, as many natural categories exist as continuums. That there can be no single individual who is the first of a new species in no way means that new species can't evolve. That there is no particular wavelength of light at which yellow becomes red in no way means that the two colours are the same. Some examples of the Continuum Fallacy. Vegans are no different from the rest of us. Any lifestyle choice causes some harm to animals. No one suddenly becomes an adult overnight, so changing the drinking age won't make a difference. There is no point where a fetus becomes a child, so abortion is the same as killing a baby. Everyone has faith in something, no one questions everything, so we're all the same. Religions are just cults with more members. Not all equating of different categories are the Continuum Fallacy. Sometimes the two categories are not different in a meaningful sense. For example, when discussing what can be taught in science classes, there is no meaningful difference between young Earth creationism and intelligent design. While there are theological differences, this is irrelevant to whether it should be taught as science. Equating the two as simply religious beliefs doesn't ignore a meaningful continuum. The key thing is whether the differences are relevant. The Continuum Fallacy is erasing a meaningful continuum and asserting a false equivalence. The main way in which people commit the Continuum Fallacy is by assuming that their clear mental categories must correspond to clear distinctions in reality. Unfortunately, humans seem to have a psychological preference for discrete categories. Reality often doesn't fit neatly into them. This is particularly true in biology. We like to divide the unborn into categories and try to determine when a group of cells becomes a person. But in reality, there is a smooth continuum of personhood that starts at conception and doesn't end until at least adulthood. Similarly, while we like to classify creatures into distinct species, this ignores the reality that there is a smooth continuum between related species, and no clear point where one became the other. This fallacy is similar to the false dichotomy fallacy and the slippery slope fallacy. The difference is that the false dichotomy recognises that differences exist, but insists on choosing only one of the extremes. The slippery slope fallacy differs from the continuum fallacy in that it again recognises that there is a difference between the two positions, but argues that there is enough similarity that one will inevitably lead to the other. The Continuum Fallacy is different in that it asserts that there is no difference between each category because there's no clear boundary. In conclusion, the Continuum Fallacy is when the lack of a clear distinction between categories is used to argue that there is no difference. Until next time, keep your fallacies to yourself.